Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
Sad to be here.
Today, we're looking at something called There Is No Enemy in God's Dictionary.
Okay.
It's by Gabriel Abdi Susanto.
Interesting.
And it's a reflection that really got me thinking about forgiveness,
Mm.
especially during those, really heated political moments.
Right.
You know, those times where you just feel completely consumed by everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All the back and forth.
Absolutely. It can be really intense.
Yeah. So this reflection, it really kind of hit me hard in that way.
Yeah. Well, it's a powerful piece for sure.
It is.
The author starts off with this really interesting question
Okay.
about whether God actually, takes sides in conflicts.
Wow.
And that leads into this deeper exploration of what forgiveness really means
Okay.
and how it can actually impact our lives, on a personal level.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
He actually starts off by describing two armies at war,
Uh-huh.
and they're both praying to God for victory. It immediately highlights just how complex this whole idea of God's role in conflict can be.
Right, because it raises the question of, whose side is God really on?
Exactly.
If both sides are praying for victory.
And it made me think about how, individuals,
Yeah.
how they interpret their faith,
Mm-hmm.
and how that can be used even to justify actions,
Absolutely.
even in really extreme situations.
Yeah, you see that throughout history. That's
Yeah.
a really key point.
It is.
And, Susanto uses this image
Okay.
to kind of set up his interpretation of Matthew 5.43, round 4:8,
Okay.
which really emphasizes God's universal love.
Okay.
And so the concept of an enemy, he's arguing,
Right.
is something that humans created. It's not a divine concept.
That's a pretty radical idea when you think about it.
It is.
Especially today.
Yeah.
So easy to categorize people as us versus them.
Especially in this political climate.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So charged, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
So to illustrate this, Susanto shares his own personal struggle
Uh-huh.
with forgiveness after an election.
Oh, wow.
And he describes this deep sadness and anger.
Okay.
But it wasn't just because his candidate lost,
Oh, interesting.
but because he felt like the process itself was unfair.
I see. So it wasn't just about the outcome.
No.
It was about the process.
Yes, and that was really interesting to me.
It is interesting.
Because it wasn't just about the outcome,
Right.
but his perception of the process being flawed.
Yeah, like something wasn't right.
Yes, and it speaks to this deeper sense of injustice
Absolutely.
that can be really hard to come to terms with.
Right. It's hard to reconcile.
Yeah.
It makes you think
Yeah.
if his emotional state at the time
Uh-huh.
maybe influenced how he saw the situation.
Interesting.
Like maybe there were some cognitive biases at play
Okay.
that, led him to focus on certain information
Right.
and kind of fueling that sense of anger even more.
That's a really good point.
Something to think about.
Because we do that, right?
We all do.
We filter things
Yeah.
through what we already believe.
Through our existing beliefs, exactly.
Especially when we're really emotional about something.
Absolutely. And Susanto's experience really highlights how important it is
Yeah.
to be aware of those potential biases, especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics.
It's like you have to step back.
You do.
And be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, check yourself
Yeah.
before you wreck yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
So given this experience,
Right.
how does Susanto define forgiveness?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, because he acknowledges
Right.
that it's a really difficult concept.
It is, especially when you feel wronged,
Right.
deeply wronged.
Yeah. So how does he define it?
Well, he makes this really crucial distinction between forgiveness and condoning actions.
Okay.
So forgiveness to him doesn't mean letting someone off the hook
Okay.
or ignoring consequences.
Okay.
It's not about that. Right. It's about shifting the focus inward,
Oh,
recognizing that forgiveness is ultimately for our own benefit.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
He actually shares that he got sick
Oh,
after a previous election
Okay.
because of all the stress
Yeah.
and negative emotion.
He held on to that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It emphasizes that holding on to anger and resentment,
Yeah.
it can have real consequences
Real consequences, for sure.
on our well-being.
Physically,
Right.
emotionally, mentally.
Yes, it
It's
does.
like carrying around a heavy weight, as he describes it.
It is.
It weighs you down.
Yeah.
And so forgiveness, in his view,
Yeah.
is about releasing that burden,
Letting go.
letting go so you can move forward.
But he also makes it clear
Yeah.
that forgiveness is a process.
It's not a destination.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like you wake up one day and everything's fine.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way.
So,
Susanto describes it as this continuous journey that requires conscious effort and a willingness to choose love over anger over and over again.
wow.
He even compares it to
Right.
increasing the degree of our spirit,
Interesting.
suggesting it's a path to personal growth.
So it's not about suppressing or ignoring
Not at all.
negative emotions.
It's about transforming them into something more constructive.
I like that.
Yeah.
He talks about the importance of consciously filling yourself with love
Yes.
to counteract those feelings of anger and resentment.
To counteract the negativity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's about actively choosing a different way to respond.
Right. Even when it's hard.
Even when it's really hard.
Yeah.
He doesn't suggest it's easy, though, does he?
No, he's very honest about that.
Yeah, he talks about constantly having to fight.
Yeah. Fight to conquer himself, he says.
Especially when those feelings of anger come back up.
They resurface.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a battle he faces internally.
Wow. So where does this internal battle fit in to this larger concept of no enemies?
Right.
Because if we're constantly struggling with our own anger and resentment, how can we really let go of having enemies?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore further as we dive deeper into Susanto's reflections.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
It seems like what he's saying is that this process, this inner battle of choosing forgiveness over and over is actually the key to dismantling that us versus them mentality that fuels so much conflict.
It's that's the root of it.
It is.
Yeah, that's a really perceptive observation.
Oh, thanks.
He highlights the importance of recognizing our shared humanity.
Okay.
Even with people that we might consider enemies.
Right.
It's about understanding that everyone is fighting their own battles. And that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's actually strength and compassion.
But isn't that a really difficult thing to do?
It is. It's a challenge.
Especially in a heated political election.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up.
You get swept up in the rhetoric.
Yeah.
And you start seeing the other side as the enemy.
Yes.
It's challenging, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Susanto doesn't shy away from that.
Right.
He really emphasizes that it takes effort.
Okay.
You have to consciously step back
from all the emotion,
from the intensity of it.
Right.
And see the humanity in the people who have different views.
He even talks about praying to Jesus.
He does.
For help with this.
Wow.
Asking for the strength and love to forgive.
It's powerful.
It's like he's acknowledging that true forgiveness, the kind that can bridge these divides, it takes something more.
More than we have on our own.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's we need to tap into something bigger.
Yeah, a source of strength beyond ourselves.
Yeah, and that kind of connects back to his point about forgiveness being a journey of growth. It's not just about letting go of anger.
No, it's about cultivating those positive emotions.
Right, love and compassion.
Exactly.
And he has this really powerful image.
Oh, what's that?
Where he talks about filling himself with love.
Okay.
To counteract the anger and resentment.
Beautiful imagery.
It's like he's replacing negativity with something positive.
Actively replacing it.
Yes.
Wow.
It makes me wonder if that's why forgiveness is linked to spiritual growth.
Interesting.
In so many traditions.
Yeah, because it seems like it takes
the
self-awareness and a willingness to challenge our egos.
Right, because our egos want to hold on.
They do. They want to be right.
To the anger.
And to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great connection.
Right.
And that idea of seeking divine help suggests that it requires humility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we can't always do it alone.
Right, we need help.
We need support and guidance to overcome those patterns.
The anger and resentment.
The deeply ingrained patterns,
He mentioned something else, too, that I found interesting.
What's that?
This idea of forgiving 70 times, 7 times.
Right. Echoing the biblical teaching.
But what I thought was cool
Yeah.
is how he says it's not about keeping score, but about cultivating a mindset of forgiveness.
I see. So it's like a constant practice.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It is. And then he links that practice to the idea of increasing the degree of our spirit.
Wow.
Like each act of forgiveness contributes to our growth.
So it's not just about reaching a state of forgiveness. It's about continually striving for it.
Exactly.
Even when we mess up.
Yes.
Yes.
That's powerful.
And it feels attainable.
It does.
Because he's so honest.
He is.
About his own struggle.
Right. He admits he still feels anger.
He does.
And resentment.
And that he has to fight to conquer himself.
But he keeps choosing forgiveness.
He does.
Even when it's hard.
And that's inspiring.
It is.
Yeah.
It reminds me of resilience.
Resilience.
Not just with like external challenges.
Right.
But with our own internal battles.
Our own inner demons.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It highlights the power of forgiveness. Not just for relationships.
Right.
But for creating peace within ourselves.
For our own inner world.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
But how does that internal transformation translate to the external world?
Right.
Like, how can we apply no enemies to the big issues we face in society?
To the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That's the crucial question.
It is.
And it's something Susanto wants us to think about as we try to understand forgiveness better.
I like that.
And its potential impact.
Yeah, let's keep going. So it feels like what he's getting at is that we need to rethink how we see forgiveness.
Yeah.
Not just personally,
right,
but how it could like influence the way we deal with bigger societal issues.
Exactly. He's challenging us to think bigger.
Right.
He doesn't give us like a step-by-step plan for dealing with huge conflicts.
Right.
But he gives us a starting point.
Okay. I like that.
You know, if we can shift away from seeing each other as enemies and start recognizing our shared humanity, it might open up some new ways to talk to each other and understand each other.
It makes me think about those big divides we see in politics and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Is he saying that forgiveness could actually be a key?
It's a bold idea.
It is.
To bridging those gaps.
Yeah.
He's not saying it's easy.
Right.
But he's saying it's an important part of creating a better world.
More compassionate.
More compassionate. Just it's about recognizing that, even when we disagree.
Okay.
There's still some common ground.
But how do we deal with the real pain and suffering that comes from conflict?
Right.
Can we really expect people to just forgive and move on?
Especially when there's injustice.
Especially.
That's a really important point. And that's where forgiveness gets complicated. He's not saying we should ignore or downplay harm. Forgiveness is a personal journey.
Yeah.
It happens differently for everyone depending on the situation.
So it's not about condoning bad actions.
Yeah.
But about letting go.
Letting go of the anger and resentment that's hurting us.
Or we can heal?
Exactly. It's about reclaiming our own peace.
Yeah, and freedom.
And freedom, yeah.
It sounds like he's saying that forgiveness is an act of liberation.
I like that.
Both for ourselves and for the people around us.
It creates space for healing in ourselves and in our relationships.
Wow. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
He focuses mostly on the personal side.
Right.
But he hints at the bigger picture.
The societal implications.
Yeah.
He thinks a world without enemies is possible.
Really?
But it takes a change in mindset.
Okay.
We have to be willing to see beyond our differences.
And see that we're all connected.
Exactly.
It's challenging.
It is.
But it's hopeful.
It is very hopeful.
So as we wrap up,
I'm
left with a feeling of the challenge, but also the potential of forgiveness.
Me too. It's a journey.
It is.
It takes courage and humility.
And being willing to admit when we're wrong.
Yeah, and Susanto shows us it's a journey worth taking.
For ourselves.
And for the world.
I think the biggest takeaway is that forgiveness is personal. But it can also change the world.
Absolutely.
It makes us look at ourselves and challenge what we think we know.
And be open to a future where enemy is a word we leave behind.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
Thanks for diving into this with me.
It's been a pleasure.
To everyone listening.
Yeah.
We hope this deep dive has given you a lot to think about.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you next time.